Hey everybody, it's LavenderTowne.
And on the last episode of Draw My BitLife, we left our character being approached by a debonair ghost. All he wanted to do was dance, but I figured I might as well get her some karate lessons just in case there's some more violent ghosts in our haunted house. Imani's son Puppy wants a bunny rabbit as a pet, which is kind of funny. I thought he might want a dog. So I decided to send her to the Humane Society and see if there's any bunny rabbits for us to pick up. There was actually quite a few, though a lot of them were kind of crazy. But this bunny, Snowy, looked to be a perfect match, so Puppy was really happy about that. Imani decided she needed to look into the ghosts that were living in her house. One of them, named Stanley, is really active, so I thought I might try to get her to summon him, but it didn't work. Then I decided to just have her renovate the house. Maybe she can get some more information about why this house is haunted if she pokes around in the walls. All that did was improve the condition of her house, but I'm convinced that we're going to find out the whole story about Stanley eventually. Next thing, I thought that Imani should get her boating license because they live in LA, so they're probably pretty near the water, and I got her a sailing boat called the Airbender's Lady. Then I decided to change her hair back to her natural color. That sailboat ended up being kind of a bad idea because she wasn't making a lot of money, and it ended up putting her into debt, so I tried to get her to sell it and even make some money on it, but we almost got our house repossessed, so instead I sold it at a loss. And next thing you know, she's encountering Gus, who is the friendlier, more calm ghost. I really want an option to say something nice to the ghost, but all we could do is stay calm. Then Ava wanted us to go to a wedding. I thought, sure, why not? But then Imani's addicted to alcohol again. She's got a real issue with alcohol. She cannot even get near that stuff. So I decided to have her retire from her job because they wouldn't let her go back to rehab. And so she's getting her retirement as well as getting rid of that alcohol addiction. I thought for this new phase of life, now that she's done with microbiology, she could go to medical school. And to my surprise, her 87-year-old mother was willing to pay her tuition. The first time around, we just got loans, but that was very sweet of her. I'm concerned those payments actually killed her though, because the very next year she dies of old age. We're $500 short to bury her like she actually wanted, and after we cremate her we receive our inheritance for $500,000, which is really frustrating. I wish she had gotten that just a little bit earlier. She successfully summons Gus, but there's nothing really to do with that, and then I decide to get her a pink Porsche. Ava's apparently in some shady dealings because she runs to our house and needs to hide out, and then we graduate. She gets an interview to be a family physician, and apparently I answered it right because now she is working at Bengal Hospital for $100,000 a year. A patient of ours says that they need more pain pills, and I decided to just give them the extra strength aspirin because I don't want to get them addicted to opioids. And speaking of addiction, Ava invites us to a wine tasting party, which is obviously not a good idea. And then I thought it might be time for Imani to have another child, so I adopted a girl named Faith. And I took both her and JB on a trip to France to kind of blow off some steam and just have fun. Waiting at home for us is the ghost Stanley, and finally we're able to compliment him. I'm hoping that we'll be able to become friends with the ghost. I'm not sure if that's actually possible. Imani changes up her hair again. I'm trying to do that every time she ages up 10 years. And then we discover Ava is having an alcohol problem, and we're so good at throwing an intervention that we fix it for her completely. We pay for Faith's college tuition, and then I decided to emigrate to Japan because Imani's always seemed to be kind of interested in Japan in one way or another, and I thought it might be fun for her to live somewhere different than the US for a while. I make her friends with a bunch of her coworkers, and then I decide to have her do the memory test to see how her mind is sort of shaping up after all of these years. I'm able to get up to a sequence of 12, so her smarts actually go up from that. And then she encounters a fox on her way to the dentist, which feels very magical, especially in Japan, but the fox then bit Imani, and then she started to get some really strange symptoms, so I sent her to the doctor, and she got rabies, which apparently you get an achievement for. Luckily she's cured, but that was a little rough. I then remembered that we didn't have a house in Japan, so I decided to buy the family a home. And how does Imani's husband repay her? Well, apparently he's been cheating on her with someone half his age, which she finds out through a private investigator. So I decided to just have her divorce him. He signed a prenup, so there's really no money concerns. And I decided to keep his name, if only because I just think it's such a cute last name. Then Ryusei Honda expresses some interest in Imani, and I thought that a sort of like friends to lovers scenario for her might be nicer than what she's done before. She sends him an angry text, and then she gets an opportunity to take some music lessons. So I get her some guitar lessons, and our daughter's doing really well in Japan, it seems like. I decided to dye Imani's hair again, just because, again, I'm trying to mark like sort of a new chapter of her life. And then I thought maybe it's time for her to run for mayor. I always thought since she was a child that she'd be good for politics, and apparently she is, because she sort of passes the whole thing with flying colors and is able to become the mayor despite multiple sort of stumbling blocks. So now that she's the mayor of Kyoto, I decided to have her check the news and see what the public is worried about. I gave them a speech to spread awareness about the environment, because apparently there's some kind of like parasitic beetle problem, and it was received extremely well. Her approval ratings in various different categories are all kind of middling, so I thought it was time to sort of adjust the agenda and make sure that she's doing well in all categories as well as she can anyway. And it's kind of cool, you can adjust how long she's working on everything. Someone tries to pass a law that would make it illegal to give children a dumb name, but that would be pretty hypocritical because our son is named Puppy. And then she turns down a bribe and decides to have a rally. I didn't really know what that was going to be for, and it didn't really work, so I guess I won't be doing any more of those. According to the headline, Kyoto's worried about institutional racism and war, so Imani does another speech to raise awareness. Then a video leaks of Imani accidentally littering, so she throws a cleanup party, and that seems to smooth it over just fine. Homelessness is on the rise in Kyoto, so she builds more low-income housing. And despite a death threat, she gives her last speech of her term, because the next thing you know, her term is over. Her approval rating was really high. Ryusei proposes to her, which is just sort of making this whole stage of her life very fun. I decided to get them married right away because she's not getting any younger. Since she is quite old, she doesn't bother with the prenup this time, and then they get married and go to Disneyland for their honeymoon. Her name is now Dr. Honda. I let that sort of go random. And then Shinsuke wants us to try PCP. I'm not exactly sure if that's right for an 84-year-old woman with a history of addiction, so I say no to that. And then Imani runs for governor, because I thought it would be kind of cool to just have her see how far she can go up the like political track. And she wins this one as well, which makes her a famous politician. I ended up having her sort of just become a workaholic. I added hours to every category here so that, you know, the public would be impressed with her hard-working attitude. And I start things off with a speech. She alleviates public fears about what might be a serial killer, and that works really well for people. Honestly, I don't know what else a governor could do about a serial killer unless she's going to go hunt him down herself, so all we can really do is keep the populace as calm as possible. And then I decided, since she's famous now, it might be fun to have her write a book, which was a huge mistake because apparently that's not allowed. She gets revolted out of office for like bad behavior, which that must have been because of the book, because her approval rating was actually pretty good before. And then while on a walk, she finds a cat and decides to keep it. A lot of people don't know this, but Japan doesn't really have a lot of humane societies. They mostly just have pet stores, so I figured if we didn't take that cat, it would probably just stay on the street. And she's not able to run for prime minister, which is kind of unfortunate because she's not from Japan. So instead she does a pizza commercial and makes a bunch of money. And then our brother Chester dies, which is really sad, so she goes back to LA to visit his funeral. And then our cat Kinoko also dies, so she's pretty sad right now. We spend time with all of our local relationships, and I thought it might be time to try adopting another child because we had such a good time with Faith, but unfortunately when we went to pick up Ichika from the orphanage, we were rejected because, well, she is pretty old, so I get that. in light of that, a bunch of her friends all die like in a row, which is very bad on her happiness and makes sense because she is so old. We go back to a few of the funerals, but we can't go back to all of them. And to cheer her up, I have her do another pizza commercial. That's sort of becoming her thing now. She doesn't really have a normal job anymore. After a karaoke night with Shinsuke, one of our oldest friends actually died. Like, I believe Ava, we met in like elementary school, so we go back for her funeral as well. And then Imani's no longer famous. Her stars just kind of waned because she's not a politician anymore. And I think that's probably fine. She has to go to the doctor because she has a staph infection from going to the gym, but her life is basically quieted down at this point. Shinsuke wants to become our best friend, and I decided to go for it because he's always hanging out with us. And I decided to get her a part-time job just to, you know, not be bored. So she becomes a video game tester, and it's time for her to complain about something, so I figured probably tech issues since she's a video game tester now. She's probably tired of clipping through the floor. Her relationship with Ryusei is really adorable. They keep going to the movie theaters and complimenting each other and renewing their vows. She even went to a movie that she really hated for him. She calls an ambulance for a man who's overdosing on opiates, and then Ayaka wants to watch YouTube, and lo and behold, my channel is on the list. Some people on Twitter told me this was possible, but I was still shocked to actually see it in my game. They enjoyed the surely excellent videos that they watched, and then it was time for I think Imani to have some relaxation time because she's had like multiple government positions and she's stressed out, so she decides to go on a cruise and works out every day apparently on it. She's 108 by the way, and her stats are incredibly good. She's almost 100% in everything. Shinsuke is still trying to get us to take drugs even though we're both like really old. Imani sees a man harassing a woman on the street, and she brings her 100-year-old bones over there to threaten him, which must have been a very cute scene. Shinsuke has us over for a pajama party, which I think is adorable at their age, and then she dies of old age at 114. She got the famous ribbon, which I wasn't really expecting because she also was very rich and did a bunch of other stuff, but I'll take it. She had a very full and fun life. She ended up with a net worth of $3 million, and yeah, I'm pretty happy with how things turned out for her. I'm sad she couldn't become like a prime minister or president, but almost everything I wanted for her sort of was achieved. Oh, and I wanted her to become friends with a ghost. Dang it. Maybe next time. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you to all of my patrons, including Bella Story, Best Kaiju, Lion, Clockwork Construct, Dark Jelly, Dr. Casket, Ilaria Louie, Emmy Bourgoin, Greer the Animator, Griffix, Hachiubi, Ice Cream Pal, Yvonne Rodriguez, JJJ, Joseph Copel, Lauren, Liblibla, Liliana Hammond, Marina Costa, Marie, Mr. Dr. Pants, Mia Lavali, Nicole Ludwig, Nicolette Queen, Nora Cornelison, Q Musgrove, Rainwater Pearls, Rebecca, Ruined Raincrow, Some Mediocre Artist, Steffi, Stephanie Vargas, The Artsy Moose, Tom David Johansson,